reporter. We've got Noi Nahoney with us today. Noi, thank you for joining us. And we're going to talk a little bit about Houston and the steel imports moving on in through there. They just saw another record set for their imports in the month of July. Can you talk to us a little bit about kind of the total, what's going on at the port, and then also a little bit of a focus on the steel side of things?
Well, good morning. Thanks for having me. Houston, for the first 6 months of 2022, they had about a 92% increase in steel imports. And it's mainly being driven by the energy industry here in Texas and the Southwest. And what's happening is right now in Texas and the Gulf of Mexico, the oil rig count is at 369 rigs, which is 60% more than this same time last year. It's because of increased oil drilling. And so you're seeing this huge demand for steel pipes, steel from the energy industry here.
Now, Noah, with this pull forward and definitely for the energy sector, do you see any kind of potential of there being, of course, in the supply chain, we see these overcorrections where we pull in too much or maybe not enough at all. Do you see any potential of this being too much of a pull forward, or is this just exactly what demand needs right now?
I think it's more of what you just said. It's what the industry needs right now, because I went back and looked at some of my stories from the past year, and the demand for steel has just been very steady. Sometimes it jumps big, but it rarely ever recedes. And right now, I think the price of oil per barrel is about $89, $90, which is a little lower than July, but I don't see any dramatic drop in demand for oil or petroleum or energy in the next few months. It'll slow down a little bit as we go into the fall, because it's not going to be quite as hot here in the Southwest, hopefully, but it'll still be a lot of demand.
So, Noi, you mentioned the petroleum products making up a big bulk of what's coming through Houston right now. And obviously, we know that we are kind of in a, not necessarily a shortage of production, but we're in tightened production here domestically in the United States. Do you think that we're going to find a balance between U.S. production versus imports right now? Or do you think that it's going to lean either one way or the other eventually?
I think, going towards the rest of the year and probably into 2023, we're going to slowly, hopefully, see more of a balance. I see production in Texas ramping up even more so than it has been. And, you still have the Russian-Ukraine crisis going on, or the conflict going on across the world. So I see, imports maybe slowing a little bit, and production here in the U.S. Ramping up a bit.
And Noah, are there any insights as to where most of these imports came from?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question?
Are there any insights for where most of these imports came from?
The oil imports?
Yes, or the steel.
A lot of it is probably coming from China. They're still one of the big steel exporters, but it's a mix also of, I think, Latin America. We get some steel from Brazil, I believe, but a lot of it comes from overseas in China.
And so, Noi, I know that you mentioned the need for the steel when it comes to the oil production industry, but what about other types of construction and manufacturing production right now? Are we talking about any of this steel going into use for warehouse construction or for anywhere other than just energy right now?
Yeah, a lot of it, like I said, is the oil drilling industry, but we also are seeing a lot of construction here in Texas, commercial. Residential has slowed a bit, but I know there's still a lot of demand for commercial warehouses, logistics centers, but also just the amount of, businesses opening. So we're seeing a lot of commercial demand for steel and lumber and other raw materials.
Awesome, Noi. Well, thank you so much for breaking this down for us. We'll continue to follow up with you as the story develops, and thanks so much for being on this morning.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, we're going to take another quick break, and then we will be right back with more Freight Waves Now in just a few minutes.